They were also leaving Vancouver Island because somebody had leaked to the Daily Mail where they were living, and they are terrified that the whole world knows where we're living and we have no security. And so they had convinced themselves that death was imminent and that somebody was going to come in and like slaughter their family. Okay. But because they were so sure of this, Harry felt that he needed to figure and solve the problem. Well, it wasn't actually him who solved the problem. It's Meghan who's going to solve the problem and get herself out of Canada. They are leaving Canada on the private plane of Tyler Perry. How did Tyler Perry get involved in this story, you ask yourself? Well, we're all asking ourselves that, scratching our heads to this very day. But way back when Meghan had been entering into the family, Tyler Perry, who's interviewed for this documentary, by the way, Tyler Perry comes on and says, look, I'm not really a royal family watcher. I'm not a royal watcher, but I had picked up on the fact that her and her dad were having problems, and their dad seemed like he was flaking on her and wasn't showing up to her for the wedding. It seemed like she was having lots of familial discord, and my heart went out to her. Now, the thing that struck me about Tyler Perry is that, well, I think that he may be genuinely empathetic. I think he is a gigantic fool. I think that for a man his age to show such a wanton lack of wisdom is unbelievable. I was astounded by how quickly he made connections without foundation or basis. And I'm like, how old are you again? Like, you can't possibly go through the world with such flimsy reasonings for doing the things you do. But then I remembered that he does make the Medea House series, so maybe that was all I needed to know about him. He says that after watching Meghan struggle with her family and knowing what that is to have family completely betray you and show them their worst sides once you get a little fame, he's experienced that. He wanted her to know that there are people in her community who had their arms open to her and were praying for her. So he wrote her a note when she was getting married saying, I see what you're walking into, which is, in his estimation, the belly of the beast. And I just want to let you know that my arms are open to you and I'm praying for you. But Meghan puts that little note in her pocket to save for a later date. Save that for a rainy day. And, well, it's a rainy day. And she's going to have to call on the generosity and the kindness of Mr. Tyler Perry. So they are freaking out in Canada. They have no security. They don't know what they're going to do. She decides that after years of never contacting him, never even saying a thank you for the note, because she said she never answered the note, that she decides to call him up bawling, saying, help us, help us, help us. We don't know what we're going to do. Okay, can we just talk for a minute about somebody sends you a really nice note saying, I'm praying for you, somebody you don't even know but who is quite famous, and you don't even answer the note. But then when you have a plethora of problems and the world is falling apart and you don't know which way to turn, and you and your husband have not one jot or tittle of an idea, then you guys decide that you're going to call on the help of your famous friend? What a way to use people. And what an evident way to use people. He's just thrilled that Harry and Meghan are contacting him because these are some people that he wants to help. Again, I want to say, and I think that it is right to say, since I don't know this person, I'm going to choose to believe that Tyler Perry is just a very genuine person and that his motivations were pure. So he says to them, I will get you out of there. I will fly you on my private plane. I will let you stay at my house. Don't worry about security. Meghan says that as she bawled on the phone telling him all her problems, she said, we can just stay a week. And he said, stay indefinitely, as long as you need to feel safe. Harry's like, woohoo! As long as we need to feel safe, we'll let it stay forever then. Meghan says that she immediately found a kindred spirit in Tyler Perry. And the reason is because sometimes it's just easier to tell somebody that you don't know all the hard things. And sometimes it's just easier to just open your heart and be vulnerable with somebody who doesn't know you. And I'm like, you mean it's easier to lie to somebody who isn't already onto the case that you are a massive manipulator? Yeah, that is easier. Tyler Perry is primed to be brainwashed. For whatever reason, I don't know if it's the story that he tells himself, as many Americans do, who have ideas about the oppressed and the oppressors. They have translated into England these storylines that are completely American storylines that cannot be translated and transmuted to another culture. But Tyler Perry has, for whatever reason, decided that the royal family is an institution that is at its very core, a hate-filled, oppressive institution. And so whatever he can do to help one of his sisters, he's going to do it, to help at least one of his sisters to break free from oppression. And so if his motivations are mostly good, I think there is a motivation in it to make himself feel good, to make himself feel like he really helped her out, and that this makes him feel good about himself, that he does not let oppression go. He does not let injustice happen. Social justice is a cause he cares about. And here is Meghan Markle, somebody with a deep tan who might be oppressed by some white people. It's time for him to get working here and save her. So he opens up his house to them. And I really think that in the conversation that they had, where he says that she sounded so scared and so afraid, and he asked her, what are you afraid and scared of? She rattled off all these things like, I'm afraid they're going to make me feel like I'm insane. I'm afraid they're going to convince me that I'm an insane person. I'm afraid that they are going to take away security and not help us to pay for the protection of our kids. I'm afraid because they tried to manipulate us with money by taking away our finances. I'm afraid because we're not going to have any ability to buy new shoes for Archie. Like all of these things about how she's so afraid. Playing into all these fears that Tyler Perry had of having seen his mother be abused and having witnessed a mother whose finances were cut off, who was manipulated with material possessions in order to get her to come back, who was, gaslit into believing that she was insane. He decides to translate that experience onto the experience that Meghan had with the royal family. So he says to the interviewer, yes, Meghan was being abused, and I was going to help her to come out of the abuse. And I don't care what people say. I don't care if people say that I can't make that same analogy. I know what abuse looks like. I know what the abuser does in order to manipulate you into coming back. And I was going to be the help that she needed to come out of that. So this is the role he's playing as savior. And that feels good to him. And he wants to keep playing that role. So even though he's having to invite the clown and her joker into his actual home, he's willing to do it so that he can keep telling himself the story of, I don't let abusers get away with things. That's great. And I'm really happy that, having seen what abuse looks like, he's vigilant in wanting to help others. But unfortunately, he does it in a very unwise way. He does it from an overly emotive place. And he's not coming at it with facts. The facts are the royal family cut Harry and Meghan off from security and from a financial stipend because that is not the royal family's money. That money is taxpayer money. So if Harry and Meghan are not going to be in country doing things for the Queen and as part of the royal family, they don't have the ability to continue to pay for Harry and Meghan's willfulness. So for Tyler Perry to say, oh, I know what abusers do. They try to cut you off financially. They try to control you with finances. Well, but it's not the royal family's finances to hand out at will and whim. So it's not really the same thing. So I just feel like he really just moved from a place of emotion and not from a place of logic and facts. And then he ends up getting himself entangled with manipulators because they too know how to play on your emotions. And they played him like a fiddle. The other thing Tyler Perry says is that he was appalled that the royal family would not offer security to Meghan. And when she was crying and saying, I'm really struggling because I'm afraid, he's like, yeah, I hated to tell her this, but she had every reason to be afraid because I'd seen the way the royal family did Diana. And I'd seen videos of Diana with all these paparazzi swarming around her after she left the royal family. And he uses the line, they literally threw her to the wolves. But I'm like, see, again, your ignorance is showing, Tyler, because there was security that was offered to Diana that she refused. She did not want those security men following her. She did not want it. Had she had royal security, which is what they wanted to give her, she probably would not have found herself in the position that she was in Paris when she died. But she didn't want that. She wanted to live her own life and do her own thing, and she didn't want anybody who she felt could spy on her and go back to the royal family and tell them what she was up to. So she refused the security that was offered. Tyler wants to act like royal family pulled security. No, Diana didn't want it. So enough of this, of reacting to a situation based on tabloid information. See, and that's the other part of this too that was really aggravating to me. Meghan and Harry are constantly incensed by the tabloids. But in this instance, Tyler Perry's truncated knowledge of the royal family, which he gained from tabloids, first the stuff with her father and him not being all he could, and Tyler, eating that up and reacting to it accordingly. And then the stuff about Diana, he's eating that up, acting to it accordingly. All of this is him believing stuff that he read in the tabloids. Somehow that's not problematic to Meghan. Tyler Perry is functioning on knowledge that he gained from tabloids. It's edited information, and in this instance, Meghan does not care to run in and help him understand the fuller context and the better story, and the bigger story. No. She's fine if he misunderstands what happened with Diana, and she's definitely fine if he misunderstands what happened with her dad. That's all information he got from the tabloids. But what is so wild to me is that Tyler Perry, a man who has been in a celebrity for a long time now. He makes a lot of money. He's very rich and people know his name. That man, Tyler Perry, should know not to believe tabloids. And yet he is giving open his home. He's throwing open the doors to his palatial mansion to a couple of people based on information he got from magazines. And I know Meghan calls him and cries and reestablishes the narrative from the tabloids. But see, then that should cause him to be concerned as well. Because she's over there substantiating some of the things he read in tabloids. But, tabloids said other things too about Meghan. Not just about her dad being mad, or not just stuff about how the royal family threw Diana to the wolves. They've said other things too. So Meghan running in and saying, yes, my dad was terrible. Yes, they didn't take care of Diana. Could it possibly be true that some of the other things that the tabloids were saying were true? Like, why does he believe some things and not others? And why is Meghan trying to tell us that the media is terrible, yet when people misunderstand the media for her gain, suddenly everything's okay? It's fine that Tyler Perry didn't really get it and that he mostly got confused with the tabloids, as long as it's going to help her get a free place to stay. Finally, they get into Tyler Perry's home. It is a beautiful home set in the mountains. COVID's happened. So they are there for 6 weeks before anybody knows they're there. They're also there for 6 weeks before Harry even tells his family that he's there. They don't even know where he is. They don't even know he's out of Canada. Do you know how wild that is, that for 6 weeks your family could not know where you are and that you're living in a completely different country, but they don't know it because you can't be bothered to send a text message? They are so willing to accept Tyler Perry's handout that it is disgusting and kind of embarrassing, if I'm honest with you. Like, I'm a little bit ashamed for them that they're just like, and Harry is so greedy to stay in this house that doesn't belong to him, that is free, that is like, it's so amazing. We've got free security. We've got a free house. You should see this place. I mean, it is crazy. It's one of the nicest places I've ever been in my whole life. And he said we could stay for as long as we want. And I'm like, let's stay forever. And he literally says that. That's not me just goofing. Okay, and I know you guys are familiar with that line because there was a lot of people who made mention of that because it just seems so, grabby. Just seems to me that you would, as a prince and as somebody who has a well-documented, publicly known amount of money that was given to you by your mother, that you would ever fall on the neck of some other wealthy celebrity and to be like, can you give me a handout? It just is like, no. Provide for yourself. Find yourself a house. Is it going to be this palatial mansion like Tyler Perry has? No, probably not. Not if you want to live in that part of the country. Probably you aren't going to be able to afford what he has, and then also afford to live. Maybe you could buy that house, but could you afford to put furniture in it? Could you afford to put food on the table in it? Probably not. But enough of this of just being well, we have to live here, and, if that means that I'm going to have to call in a bunch of favors, I'll do it. Call in a bunch of favors isn't even the right term because that makes it seem like he's done something for somebody else. No, it's that was not the right wording at all. It's more like fall on his knees and beg and cry, which is literally what Meghan did. When she called Tyler Perry, she turned on the waterworks to manipulate him into giving them a place to stay for free and a private jet to fly in. Do you guys have any friends with private jets and huge homes that you guys can just call them up and be like, I'm having a really hard time. Can I use your jet in your house? Okay, but for somebody that she didn't even know and that she had completely ignored until it was convenient for her to call on him and then ask him for huge favors like a place to stay and a plane to fly in, it's wild to me that he accepted this, because I would have written her off as just kind of like somebody who is super rude, that you would completely ignore the letter that I sent you. And now I've never heard anything, not even like, hey, we're in LA, thank you so much for your note. I'd love to catch up and meet you in real life. Like, nothing has preceded her desperation for a place to stay. Yet Tyler's like, sure, come on, because he needs to feel like he's a good guy. Okay. We have lots, like I said, of video footage of them from their phones. It's Archie's first birthday. They're celebrating it at Tyler Perry's house. We get lots of footage of them just being like super normal. They're making a balloon arch for his birthday. They go out of their way to film Megan. She's got her phone on the counter and she's like filming herself mixing up his first birthday cake, because she's that kind of mom. She didn't buy his cake, please. I'm also like, well, it's COVID, so he probably couldn't. And then, let's see, all hell breaks loose when after 6 weeks, the demon Daily Mail finds them again. And Harry says that it was 6 weeks before they found them in Canada, and now it's 6 weeks here. It must be like a thing they have. They'll leave you in peace for 6 weeks, and then they come and destroy their life. So then they proceed to put up a grotesque fence all along the edge of Tyler Perry's property. It's hideous, because he's got these great views, but then they block it with this hateful fence. And I just can't believe that you'd be staying at somebody's house indefinitely. Like, initially it's like, we're just going to stay a week, okay? But now you're staying so long that you feel comfortable putting up a fence on this man's property. And they're putting up all this chain link fence on the back side of the property. They claim it keeps getting cut and people keep jumping in. They claim that it was necessary for Tyler to put up a whole new security system, extra cameras, plant more trees on his property so that, can continue to block the views from the hateful paparazzi. And it's like, how could you ask anybody to alter their property so that you can just not feel so bad? Now, Tyler Perry claims that even though there's a bunch of celebrities that live in that same area, he'd never seen the attack on anybody the way he saw on them. He claims there was a bunch of drones flying around over their house. He claims there was a bunch of helicopters. They show us a bit of footage of a helicopter so high in the sky that I cannot imagine it could have gotten any pictures of their property. And if it did, it would have been these fuzzy little images that maybe would have shown a couple of dots on the lawn that could have been them. But nobody was getting any footage of their kids. Which, by the way, let's talk about the kids for a second real quick. Side note, I don't know who the kids are in this documentary, but these are not their kids. These are different kids every time I see them. Like, legitimately. And also the ages of the two kids they keep showing don't match the ages that their kids would be. Like, a lot of times the kids are like, they look like the same age. And then, like, they say that the little girl's hair is reddish gold. And at one point they show a child crawling around the floor with reddish gold hair. But then in all the other footage, it's a brown-headed kid. They show Archie, who I thought also had red hair. Am I, like, misremembering? That they show this kid who's got a big mop of brown hair. I don't know who these kids are, okay? And I had heard that they were potentially using other kids in the documentary, but I also heard that from a non-legitimate source. So it's hard to say. But I can tell you this is not any, judging on the descriptions that they have given of their own children in this documentary, these kids aren't them. Okay, so if the paparazzi are flying around, I don't know that they're going to get any pictures of any kids we'd recognize, because the only kids we know are some brown-headed kids.